Welcome to this lesson on email authentication and header analysis. In this tutorial, you will learn how to read and analyze email headers, and you'll be able to separate between legitimate emails and phishing attempts. We'll break down how email actually is authenticated. Then we'll focus on the three core defenses used in authentication. That's SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, and how attackers may try to bypass them. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to pass raw email headers with confidence, identify spoofed sender addresses, compare real phishing emails versus legitimate ones, and understand how authentication failure exposed malicious intent. I'm your host, Dr. Ayo Adenuga. This is a classroom, or should I call it a tabletop lab, and it's focused on helping analysts, as cybersecurity learners, SOC analysts, and anyone that is serious about defending against email-based attack to gain understanding of how email header analysis could help in identifying malicious intents and secure the necessary sensitive information. So let's continue. Let's start with what is spoofing. Spoofing is the technique of faking an identity. Faking an identity is spoofing. Example is faking phone number, which is called caller ID spoofing. Fake email address, email spoofing. Fake website spoofing. So spoofing is one of the methods used in phishing. So I want you to understand the difference between spoofing and phishing, because these two, they are related, but one is a method for achieving the other. So spoofing is a method that is used in phishing. Phishing is tricking victims to give off sensitive information. That's the goal of phishing. And to be able to achieve this, attackers may use spoofing, because if attacker presents his true identity, obviously the victim will not give up sensitive information, and that is why attacker need to hide his or her identity. That is what is that hiding of the true identity is called spoofing. All right, so we continue. Now this is sample email header. I know if you're coming across this and you are not in cybersecurity, yes, it can be of immense help to you as well. This is a knowledge that almost everyone should have. Anyone that is using email, you should understand not just the body of the email you receive, the security aspect of it, apart from allowing you to know where the email comes from, resides in the header. Because the header is like the address on the envelope that you receive in mail. And the header will tell you where it's coming from, where the mail is coming from, who is addressed to, from what city, and detail of the sender. So when you open the email header, you see something like this, more than like this, but we have extracted what we need for this lesson, the indicators that are needed to review email header and determine whether the email is legitimate or malicious. So look at it. If you want to read email, you start from the bottom. Let's start. I'm not considering the authentication result now. Let's look at the from and receive. So you have to start from. So look at what we have here. We have a return path. The return path is the route through which the response will go back to the sender. And this is the sender. So you can see it's hr@company.com, and the sender, this is the HR team. That's it's called display name. HR team here is called the display name. Sorry about that. And the hr@company.com, that is the address, the email address. So it's from that source. But then from the received from mail.company.com, you can see that, and it will show the IP address and the mail server that process it and send it in. You see it here, received from mailexchange.google.com with the protocol and the ID of the email, and from employee@company.com. You can still see that this domain, and this domain are the same, and you see the date and the time that the email was received. So that is that. And how do mail servers authenticate? That is, verify identity of the sender to understand, to check whether that sender is authorized to send that email to the receiver or not. We have what is called SPF, then you have DKIM, then you have DMARC. For this particular email header now, we have google.com, which is the domain of the HR company designates as the permitted sender. That's why it passed. DKIM pass. That's the result. Header.d is the company.com. Then DMARC pass. P rejects, SP rejects. Okay. So now, what does SPF mean? What does DKIM mean? And what does DMARC mean? Let's progress. So these key authentication flags, we need to understand them in order to be able to analyze email headers. So SPF stands for Sender Policy Framework. It checks whether the sending server is authorized to send email for the domain that is shown as the sender. So this framework will check whether that particular server that sent the email is authorized to send for that domain. So it means that it will be able to match the domain and the server and see whether that server is a legitimate server sending from that particular domain. Then, I'm sorry, the domain is a legitimate domain and is sending from that particular server. Okay. Then DKIM, domain keys identified mail. It verifies that the email was not altered in transit and was signed by the sender's domain. So it's about the integrity of the email. That's DKIM. Then the last one is DMARC. domain-based message authentication, report, and conformance. It uses both SPF and DKIM results to decide how to handle failed emails and help prevent spoofing. So if there is a failure in SPF or DKIM, the DMARC will decide what to do with such email. Sometimes you may receive email from Google, from your Gmail account, and you will see that it will show sign, maybe a red sign that indicates we do not know this sender, or we could not maybe verify the sender, something like that. This sender could not be verified. So that alerts the receiver that you need to be careful with this email. And that is how, with these authentication flags, that's how your email servers are able to send some emails to spam folder. They sieve them off, filter them off, and you don't see them unless you go into the spam folder. Okay, so that is what we need to know about the SPF, DKIM, and DMARC as means of verifying the identity of the sender, checking the integrity of the email content, and handling any faulty email that is received. All right, so we move on. Now, this is a sample of a fake email header. So it's received from unknown. You have this. It shows also the IP address, the mail exchange server. Then, but you can see here that for employee, we go back. I want you to look at this carefully. You see that this one we have for employee at company.com. Then you have team. The header is HR team. Then HR at company.com. And the path is HR at company.com. So let's go back to the fake one. You see employee at company.com. Yes. But then HR team, still the same header. But now HR at company.com. Yes. But return path is what? randommail.net. It means that this is a kind of hijacked email, and by the time you reply to this email, it's not going to the domain company.com. It's going to be returning to randommail.net. So you can see that SPF fail, DKIM none, then DMARC fail as it's rejected. So that's a sample of a fake email header. So let's compare the result that you should see in a legitimate email header and the spoofed email header. In legitimate email header, you see your SPF will pass, your DKIM will pass, and your DMARC will pass. But for spoofed, you have SPF fail, DMARC fail, DMARC, DKIM fail, DMARC fail. Sometimes it might be DKIM, maybe none or something like that. So, but for a legitimate email, these three must record pass: SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. All right. So, spotting legitimate versus spoofed email. This is what you should focus on. From HR, example from HR at company.com. So that means the return path also must be the same as the from the from and return part must be the same. Okay? But in phishing, what do you have here? You have from and the return part different. Then SPF must record pass, DKIM pass, and DMARC pass. But look at the phishing email. The SPF is fail, DKIM none, DMARC fail. Then the sender IP will show authorized, whereas in phishing email it will show unknown, because the attacker may be hiding the IP address. Then the risk level for if you see things like this, the risk level is low, but the risk level for this is high. So you need to understand that it is, especially when you suspect any email, even if it has passed into your inbox, it's not filtered into the spam folder yet, you can still do your due diligence. Okay, so we continue. Now, look at this. From CEO@company.com, return part, scammer@gmail.com. Though you will not see scammer there, but you see another address. It could be at gmail.com, it could be at yahoo.com, it could be at anything. It could even be at another domain.com. You understand it now? So, authentication result, SPF fail, DKIM none, DMARC fail. And when you see this type of email, obviously the attack type is business email compromise, because it's the spoofing. The intent of the spoofing is to pretend to be the CEO of the company. So that is executive impersonation. And when that is done, it is to the intent of directing or commanding some officers in the organization to take an action that is not authorized by the individual or the officer that is being impersonated. Okay? So, how do you check in your email? If you have a Google, if you have a Gmail, this is what you do. If you want to have, you want to try this with your Gmail, you want to understand it better, you can go to, once you open your email, the email sent to you, you see these three dots at the top, you click on it, you have this drop down, and you scroll down, you see show original. You click on this show original, and this is the kind of a thing you will see. So you will see the message ID. You see this one is a screenshot of email header, okay, from Gmail account delivered. So you see the time, and it's from Google search. There's no reply at google.com. That's from, okay, and so you see the Gmail, an update. But for you to see the full message underneath it, you will see either download or something like that. You can open the entire header to look out for this. Even if you are not a professional, focus on these ones and leave others, at least at the basic level. You should be able to look at this. You can see this one, pass with IP, the IP is there. Then DKIM, pass with domain, google.com. You can see that it's from google.com, and you can see that it says pass with domain, google.com, because it has verified that the sender email, the sender domain is the same as the sender return part. then DMARC pass. Okay, so if you have doubt about any email, it should be your first aid. Open the header and check this. If you have pass, that still does not mean that everything is all right, because it could come from a legitimate domain, but then someone internal could be malicious. So someone could hijack another individual's email and use it to send fake or a phishing email. So let's continue. So question and answer time. Having explained that to you, let's test your knowledge about what we have talked so far. So for each question, decide whether the email is legitimate or phishing. That's why I call this tutorial a tabletop lab. So is the email legitimate or phishing? Then choose the best answer. Now this is question 1, authentication check, legitimate or malicious. Look at what you have there, from and return paths, and the authentication result is SPF is passed, DKIM is passed, and DMARC is passed. So will you consider this a legitimate email or a malicious email? Get your answer. I want to show the answer now. The answer is, sorry, maybe I did not put the options there, but option A is legitimate. Sorry, option A is malicious. Option B is legitimate. All authentication mechanisms pass, and the from and return path align. Strong indicator of a legitimate email. Okay. Then let's go to question 2. Spoofed sender. Now from support@company.com, return path is attacker@evilmail.net. So authentication results is SPF is fail, DKIM none, DMARC is fail. What is this email? Legitimate or phishing? Choose your answer, your option A or B. Okay, the answer is B. From and return paths mismatch plus authentication failures. The classic spoofing. Question 3. Display name deception. So here we are focusing on display name. Remember that we looked at the display name while we're looking at the samples. So here you see Microsoft, from Microsoft Security. That's what you will see at the top as the display name. But then compare the display name with the email address. Is it from the same domain? So you can see here, this one is alert@randommallets.net. Nothing Microsoft here. And even sometimes another one that could be very tricky is if they use Microsoft but not as in this letter. It could be spelled wrongly. The Microsoft could be spelled wrongly, because obviously not many people will look into detail to see whether the spelling is right or not. So they could use a special character in Microsoft in the email address. So but you should be able to detect, if you detect any anomaly between the display name and the domain from where the email was sent, then you see, you should have at the you should be alert. And you can see the authentication results here. Pass, pass, pass. That's tricking the. So what makes this email suspicious? Is it SPF failure, DKIM failure, display name impersonation, missing headers? What will be your option? Select the best option. You can see SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. The answer is C. Authentication passes, but the domain is not Microsoft. Display name are easily faked. Okay? So the return part, what happened in this case is that the return part and the email address is for the attacker. Both of them match, but the only thing the attacker has done is to create a fake display name. Attacker did not change anything about the email that is used, but the display name is what the attacker has altered. And that's one of the most easiest thing to do. It's just the email we ask if you go to your settings, it will tell you what display name do you want, and once the display name is specified, that is what the receiver will see as the display name. So seeing the display name should not be sufficient to believe that the email comes from that the display source. Okay, question 4. NX domain, that's non-existing domain sender IP received from unknown. Authentication result, SPF fail, DKIM none, DMARC fail. What is the biggest red flag? Missing DKIM, unknown sending IP, SPF failure, all of the above. What will be your biggest red flag? The answer is all of the above. Multiple failure compound risk. SOC analysts need to look for patterns, not single indicator. Okay? So not just one. You have to look at the header. Does the header match the IP address? Does the from match the return part? So you have to, then what about the 3 authentication flags? The SPF, the DKIM, and the DMARC. So you have to combine all to be able to conclude whether that email is a legitimate email or not. Question 5. Internal spoof, CEO fraud. CEO company, I think we've given the example. We've done it earlier. Maybe I think I duplicated it, though with more detail now. So the authentication results, SPF fail, DKIM fail, DMARC fail. What attack type is this? Yes, that's what I want to. Credential phishing, malware delivery, business email compromise, spam. Which type of attack is this? What's your best option? Okay, let's see the answer now. The answer is C. CEO impersonation is a hallmark of BEC attack. Do you know what BEC means? It means business email compromise. Business email compromise. BEC. Question 6. This is legit, but it's suspicious. So legit but suspicious content. That's what we want to look at here. Look at the from. No reply at service.com. Return part. No reply at service.com. You can see it. And look at the authentication results. SPF pass. DMARC pass. Then DMARC, DKIM pass, DMARC pass. Now we'll now go into the email, the body of the email. You now see, despite the fact that all these pass the test, and in the email body, you now see your account will be suspended in 30 minutes. Click here immediately. You see, click here. That should raise a red flag, even if it is from legitimate source. Once you see click on a link in any email, that should stir up your survival instinct immediately before you consider whether it is legitimate or not. Because clicking on any link in the email could be disastrous. All right. So here, now let's see our question. How should this be classified? If you are a SOC analyst, how will you classify this? Legitimate email, phishing, needs further investigation, automatically safe. Remember that there is difference between spoofing and phishing, but spoofing is used to achieve phishing, and phishing itself is deceiving victim to give up sensitive information. Okay, so the answer is what? Authentication pass, but urgent language requires content analysis. Header alone are not enough. So we've moved now from the header. Now we're talking about the body of the email itself. Even if the header pass, the body of the email could still be compromised. So you have to be aware of that. So there is authentication check you need to do at the header, and there is content check you need to do at the body of the email. Question 7. Which header is most important for spoofing? Is it the subject, date, authentication results, message ID? What is the correct answer? SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. They are the strongest indicators of spoofing. So if any of these fail, it's a strong indication that you may be dealing with a spoofing scenario. Okay. And lastly, so we're talking about SOC decision here. You see, from is not equal to return part, SPF fail, DKIM missing, and DMARC fail. Let's now see our question. What should a SOC analyst do? What should you do? What should be your next line of action? Deliver the email, quarantine email, ignore email, reply to sender. So what is your option? The answer is B. The email is almost certainly spoofed and should be quarantined. All right. So with that, we come to the end of this tabletop exercise on email header analysis. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Ayo Adenuga. Don't forget to join the channel, subscribe, and like the video. I'll see you in our next always important content. Thank you.